After awakening the memories of the cannon fodder male supporting character, I deliberately ran into my school beauty sister, to make her fall in love with me at first sight. Just because in my past life, after being recognized by a wealthy family, my biological sister opposed me everywhere for the sake of the fake young master. She even spread rumors about me being an illegitimate child everywhere. After a lifetime together, I knew her preferences very well. I specifically disguised myself as the perfect male idol in her heart. To let her know that lovers eventually become siblings was a particularly vicious form of revenge. At this moment, the target, Wen Muyao, appeared. I immediately approached and politely asked, "Hello, how do I get to the nearest library?" Wen Muyao and her best friend turned around. They were all taken aback. What caught their eyes was a handsome boy with an excellent demeanor. His warm smile felt like a gentle spring breeze. Wen Muyao felt a strong visual impact, making her heart race uncontrollably, until my magnetic voice sounded, "Excuse me, which way is the library?" Muyao suddenly realized. She instinctively pointed towards Construction Road. "The library is that way." I returned a polite smile. I said thank you and turned to leave. Wen Muyao stared blankly at my retreating figure, until I was far away. Only then did she come back to her senses as if waking from a dream. A sarcastic smile curled at the corner of my mouth. Everything is under my control. What would it feel like to fall in love at first sight with someone I should utterly despise? What would that feeling be like? I couldn't help but chuckle softly. I really can't wait to see Wen Muyao's reaction when she discovers I'm her real brother. Calculating the time. The Wen family should be discussing bringing me back home right about now. In my last life, in order to maintain the identity of the fake young master, Father Wen let me enter the Wen family as an adopted son. It wasn't until much later that I learned my true identity. However, in this life, it won't be that simple for them to take me away. As expected, things went just as I had predicted. Early the next morning, the Wen family came to my door. But it wasn't Father Wen or Mother Wen who came. It was the Wen family's driver and assistant who arrived. It was the same in my previous life. They only sent these two to take me home. They called it a kind-hearted adoption. The moment Assistant Yang Ting saw my appearance, her pupils suddenly contracted. But she quickly regained her composure. With a proper smile on her face, she asked, "Excuse me, are you Mr. Zhang Chen?" I nodded with a calm expression. "Yes." Yang Ting then handed me a business card. "Hello, Mr. Zhang Chen. We are subordinates of Wen Yeshan, the owner of Shenghang Real Estate. This is my business card. You can take a look. However, just one glance. May I ask what your business is? Is there something you need?" The ignored Yang Ting's expression stiffened. She seemed somewhat displeased. "It's like this. Mr. Zhang, I wonder if you still remember your biological father." I raised my eyebrows. "What does this mean?" "It means your boss is my relative." Before I could finish speaking, Yang Ting frowned and interrupted me. "Your biological father is the lifesaver of our boss." The Wen family fabricated an extremely ridiculous lie. They said the same thing in the last life. They said I was the son of the Wen family's lifesaver. The Wen family has never given up on finding me. They truly are loyal and righteous people from the Wen family. Yang Ting continued. "That's how it is. Our boss says your father is no longer around. From now on, he will be your father. He wants us to bring you back to the Wen family, and he will formally process an adoption procedure. From now on, you will be a member of the Wen family." As the words fell, the driver Li Hu also said from the side, "You probably know as well. The Wen family is the richest in Sea City. To put it bluntly, as long as you become our boss's adopted son, then you can say you've made it overnight." Both of them wore superior expressions, as if I had taken an enormous advantage. Looking at their lofty attitude, I let out a light laugh. "I'm sorry. I have no intention of casually recognizing parents. Do you have any other business? Can you not waste my time having breakfast if there's nothing? Thank you." After saying that, I went straight into the house and closed the door. Before closing the door, I saw their incredulous expressions. Soon, Yang Ting and Li Hu returned to the Wen family. They conveyed my attitude to Wen Yeshan and Lu Wei. Just then, Wen Muyao was also present. Upon hearing that Zhang Chen rejected their adoption, she immediately let out a cold laugh. "If he doesn't want to come back, then don't. He's just a little hoodlum. He really thinks he's something." As soon as Wen Muyao finished speaking, Lu Wei shot her a disapproving glance. "Don't say that. You know that." Wen Muyao stood up impatiently and said, "I only have one brother, Qingyu. You don't have to say so much to me. I have something to do, so I'll leave first." After saying that, she left quickly. Lu Wei sighed and looked at Wen Yeshan beside her. How strong can it be? He doesn't want to come back. Wen Yeshan was reading the newspaper with his legs crossed. I didn't take this matter to heart. His reluctance to return is simply due to caution. He just doesn't believe in free handouts. "I'll go myself in a couple of days." Only then did Lu Wei break into a smile. "That's a fair point. Then I'll mention some luxurious items later. Let Xiao Chen know what a real rich person is like. After all, he is my biological son. I can't just let him fall into depravity outside." On the other side, after rejecting Wen Muyao, I went to the library. I know clearly that Wen Yao has. How intricate this relationship is. How complicated the situation is. Today, I heard that I refused to be adopted. I would definitely be utterly disgusted. Whenever she gets angry, she doesn't like staying at home. That day, I clearly saw the amazement in Wen Muyao's eyes. I'm sure she has feelings for me. As Wen Yao's object of affection at first sight, she will also come to Construction Road today to try her luck. I was reading a psychology book with great interest. As I expected, an hour later, I heard Wen Muyao's surprised voice. "It's you." I intentionally sat in the window seat. The sunlight streamed in. It felt like I was glowing. I slightly raised my head. I then saw Wen Xinya not far away. At that moment, she was walking quickly towards my location, until she stood in front of me, looking at me in surprise. I then frowned in confusion, seeing that I seemed not to recognize her. A hint of disappointment flashed in Wen Muyao's eyes. But soon she raised a big smile at me again. Little brother, don't you remember me? That day at the mall entrance. You asked me for directions. I pretended to realize and smiled at her. So it was you. Thank you so much. Wen Muyao waved her hands repeatedly. You're welcome. After saying that, she pointed to the empty seat across from me. Little brother, can I sit here? I continued to lower my head and read. Wen Muyao sat down in the seat. Seeing that I didn't acknowledge her, Wen Muyao felt a bit disappointed. But looking at my face, her heart started racing again. This face was just completely to her taste. Wen Muyao secretly vowed in her heart, this man must become her boyfriend. At that moment, I seemed to feel her gaze. I slightly raised my head to look at her. Wen Muyao suddenly snapped back to reality and quickly came up with an idea. It's like this. I see you were reading psychology books. Are you studying psychology? I shook my head and adjusted my book. No, I'm not. It's just a slight interest. Wen Muyao nodded and continued to ask. I see. So, are you still a student? I glanced at her. It's public now. She asked again. Are you in high school then? Or are you in university? Of course, I'm in university. A hint of annoyance appeared in my eyes. Are you busy? She noticed the change in my mood. Wen Muyao quickly explained with a start. It's just a matter. I was just asking casually. No other meaning. I just wanted to know more about you. Sincerity is always the secret weapon. Wen Muyao decided to speak honestly. She looked at me sincerely with her peach blossom eyes. To be honest, ever since I saw you that day, I have already fallen for you. For the past few days, I've been coming to Construction Road once a day. I just want to find you. Now I've finally found you. Can you give me a chance? Don't be fooled by Wen Muyao's affectionate demeanor now. In fact, she's an extremely fickle person. Also, she doesn't like her boyfriend to just blindly obey her. In her view, a guy needs to have his own claws to have charm. Otherwise, he's just stiff, boring, and completely uninteresting. After being her brother for so many years in a past life, I know exactly how to handle her. I calmly listened to Wen Muyao finish speaking. I closed the book and smiled at her. Whether or not to pursue me is your own business. Why are you asking me for a chance? If I don't give you a chance, and you'll disappear from my sight, then I can also give you a clear answer. My tone is gentle, but my expression is extremely calm. It carries a hint of displeasure at being disturbed. I stood up with the book and asked, do you have anything else to discuss? If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave now. Wen Muyao didn't expect me to turn on her so suddenly. Seeing me getting up to leave, she hurriedly got up as well. Hey, handsome. I didn't mean it that way. I just wanted to let you know something. This way it won't seem too presumptuous. Regardless of whether you agree or not, I will pursue you. Her expression was extremely serious. I glanced at her calmly. It's up to you. After saying that, I turned and left. Before leaving, I picked up a book from the nearby shelf. Seeing this, Wen Muyao also followed me. She wanted to have lunch with me. I directly refused. However, Wen Muyao was not discouraged by the rejection. She asked for my contact information again. I was so annoyed by her persistence that I could only say, if we happen to bump into each other next time, then I'll give you my contact information. This time, Wen Muyao didn't pester me anymore. After I left, she immediately returned to the library. Its purpose is self-evident. I don't care at all. You could say this is intentional on my part. After all, things that come too easily are not cherished. And during this time I spend entangled in the Wen family. I want to leave a perfect impression in the Wen family. Bone structure. Older brother. This is truly quite a blow. In the days that followed, I wandered back and forth between school and the rental house. I simply didn't go back to the library. And by Sunday, my rental house finally welcomed its second set of guests. It was Wen Yushin and Lu Wei. Since I last rejected those two, Wen Yushin has been contemplating when to come find me. Fortunately, he also had time today, so he came together with Lu Wei. As for Yang Ting and Ji Yuhu, they naturally waited downstairs. Both Yushin and Lu Wei were stunned the moment they saw me. It took them a while to regain their composure. Such a handsome son. Even just looking at it is pleasing to the eye. And when I returned to the Wen family, regardless of my knowledge and experience, just this face alone is a very advantageous weapon. Wen Yushin had a face full of kindness. Hello, young man. I don't know if you recognize me. Before coming, Wen Yushin felt a bit impatient. After all, this son he had never raised by his side. He has not an ounce of affection for him. If it weren't for blood ties, he wouldn't have come at all. But now it seems this trip is more valuable than he imagined. However, I raised an eyebrow and asked, if I knew you, would I still be asking if it's difficult? Although my attitude made Wen Yushin somewhat uncomfortable, but thinking of the benefits my return to the Wen family could bring, he forcefully suppressed that unpleasant feeling. After all, he is the richest man in C-City. It's not easy to handle a young guy who's still underage. Wen Yushin handed me his business card with a charming smile. Allow me to introduce myself then. I am Wen Yushin, the boss of Shanghang Group. Here is my business card. You can take a look. He didn't go to accept it. There are ways to accept it. So, what's the matter? Do you have something to discuss? It's a bit ungrateful. Lu Wei next to us frowned slightly. Stand. Wen Yushin wasn't embarrassed as he took back the business card. It's like this. A man and a woman came to find you a few days ago, right? They should have told you about what happened, right? Your father is my lifesaver. His only wish before he died was to find you and properly compensate you. I interrupted him. Do you want me to be your son? Wen Yushin nodded. Yes. Don't worry. I will go through the formal adoption process, so that everyone in C-City knows you are my son, Wen Yushin. As he spoke, Wen Yushin let out a sigh and looked at me with a loving gaze. I know. You lost your parents at a very young age. It's not easy for someone to grow up alone and lonely until the age of 17. But no matter what happened in the past, I won't let you suffer any longer in the future. Although I, Wen Yushin, can't say I'm extremely wealthy, I can still have a say in this C-City. I can support you in doing anything you want to do. From now on, I will treat you like my own son. His words were very moving, but I was completely unmoved. I looked at him with no change in my expression. No need for that. It's still the same thing. I have no intention of randomly acknowledging anyone as family. Wen Yushin never expected that the conversation would come to this point. That I would actually refuse. His expression immediately darkened. How can this be called randomly acknowledging a father? Your father is my lifesaver. I am not your lifesaver. You just needed to take good care of him all those years. There's no need to care about him anymore. Besides, I'm living quite well now. Wen Yushin glanced around. Is living in this environment good for you now? I gave him a glance. As long as I feel happy, that's enough. In this life, I will never return as an adopted son. I want to personally have Tien acknowledge my identity as his biological son. I will gradually shatter the peace of the family. Otherwise, I can disturb the Wen family from outside endlessly. To be placed in the family as an adopted son, it becomes a layer of self-imposed constraint. By then, they can try to put labels on me. It would become an extremely simple matter. Although I'm not afraid, I also don't want that much trouble. Moreover, returning to the Wen family as a biological son, to see if the seemingly innocent fake young master of the Wen family, Wen Qingyu, is truly that innocent. Is he really that innocent after all? And that woman, Yang Ting. I looked at the somewhat angry faces of the two. Do you have anything else to discuss? After saying that, I closed the door and got ready to leave. Lu Wei followed closely behind and said, Young man, you're still young. You don't understand the importance of money. Before finishing her sentence, I interrupted her. I will earn my own money in the future. Lu Wei smiled slightly. How much can you earn? I'm not trying to belittle you, dear. The Wen family can casually give you a villa, if it relies on you alone. When will you be able to buy a villa? Hearing this, I suddenly stopped in my tracks. I turned around and shot Lu Wei a glance filled with sarcasm. Helping you must involve adopting me. What does this indicate? This shows that deep down, you are just simply repaying me. If I were your son, how much have you invested in me? In the future, it will be several times. As long as I am unwilling to follow your arrangements, you might even label me as the last ungrateful person. You are truly hypocritical. I'm done looking for you. No matter what you are, I won't agree to it. Looking at the expressions on their faces, they turned into guilt, rage, and a hint of sadness. I smiled and turned to leave. At that moment, I felt incredibly pleased. I was ready to pester Wen Muyao again. A family should be neat and together. After many days, I finally went back to the library. I saw someone standing at the library. It was Wen Muyao, looking irritated at the entrance. At the same time, Wen Muyao saw me. Her eyes suddenly lit up. She immediately jogged over to me. Hey, big brother. It's nice to see you again. Can you give me your contact information this time? I frowned coldly. Seeing my expression, Wen Muyao said nervously. You said before, if we could meet again next time. She was interrupted before she finished. You wealthy people's interests are really quite similar. I had a sarcastic expression on my face. I just like to find handsome boys from poor families. The signal my words sent was clear. It was obvious that I had encountered something upsetting. Wen Muyao's expression turned serious. Seeing me turn to leave, she quickly followed. Hey, handsome. Did you encounter something? Just say it. Maybe I can help. Seeing that I ignored her, she. Love at first sight often comes from physical attraction. But I never intended to offend you. After saying this, Wen Muyao saw my softening. She sighed in relief and became more sincere. Ever since you sang. Since the last time you came down happily. After we met and you gave me your contact information. I come to the library every day to wait for you. I just hope to see you again. To become friends with you. I shot her a glance. That look was self-explanatory. Muyao smiled softly. Just temporary. I believe that one day you will be moved by me. Become my boyfriend. Upon hearing this, I finally stopped looking so cold. Are you really that confident? Wen Muyao puffed up her chest. When you first saw me, you probably thought I was beautiful. But after spending time with me, you would realize how likable I truly am. I raised an eyebrow and glanced at her. She indeed looked quite good. After a conversation, the distance between Wen Muyao and me had shrunk quite a bit. We found a cafe to have coffee. Wen Muyao asked me why I was in such a bad mood earlier. I remained silent for quite a while. Then I carefully considered how to explain what had happened today. My tone was light and casual. I simply said that a wealthy couple came to see me today. They claimed to have a history with my father, and they wanted to adopt me. To this, Wen Muyao found it utterly ridiculous. Little brother, you look like you should be in your 4th year. At that time, they came to you and said they wanted to adopt you. What does it mean? I glanced at her and said firmly. Their family is very wealthy. They said that if I agreed to be their son, I could save many years of struggle. Wen Muyao was directly angered to the point of laughing. Is being rich really that impressive? Moreover, she realized something before finishing her words. Her expression froze on her face. Young man, you. I knew what she wanted to say and nodded. Yes, I am an orphan. I don't know my dad. I have never seen my dad. My mom died when I was 7 years old. I went to school thanks to the kindness and support of social workers. My tone was casual, and my expression was indifferent. But this very appearance made Wen Muyao even more heartbroken. So, over the years, you must have had a tough time, right? I shook my head. This line seems incomplete or out of context, unable to translate without more information. I have gotten used to living alone. So, they suddenly came to talk about this. I actually felt a bit angry. Were you just projecting your anger onto me? Sorry. Wen Muyao waved her hand and said, you don't need to apologize. It's their fault. Wen Muyao never considered that I was completely different. The wealthy couple in her life are her parents. I am the ugly person in her heart. The crude, repulsive biological brother. Muyao didn't know what to say. After all, given her current identity, she doesn't have much standing to assure me of anything. After considering it repeatedly, Wen Muyao took a deep breath. Little brother, if you're having difficulties in life, I can help you. You mustn't be adopted by that wealthy couple. You don't know that some wealthy people are cruel. They have very bad hearts. Every action they take has their own purpose. You're so good looking. If you become their son, aren't you just letting them manipulate you? I looked at the concern on Wen Muyao's face and pressed my lips together. I managed to smile. You don't have to force yourself to be angry. I have already firmly rejected them. No matter what they say, I will not agree to being adopted. Upon hearing this, Muyao finally breathed a sigh of relief. However, Lu Mei still frowned tightly. People like them will not easily give up. You tell me, which family they belong to. Although my family isn't particularly wealthy, we can still make ourselves heard in Sea City. When the time comes, I'll go greet them. They won't dare to harass you again. I sneered in my heart. What's the point of telling you? What's the use of it anyway? I shook my head. It's done. Chatting with you is really enjoyable. A lot of the worries in my heart have been eased. As I spoke, I took out my phone. I asked Wen Muyao to add my contact information. When Wen Muyao was drinking her coffee, I inadvertently revealed my age. About being recommended for admission to Linnan University. Wen Muyao's eyes widened instantly. You're really amazing, big brother. Many top students at our school can't get into Linnan University. After chatting for another 20 minutes and waiting for the right moment, I then got up and suggested leaving. Wen Muyao seemed a bit reluctant to part. Where are you going? Can I go with you? I smiled and politely declined. I just have something to take care of. The house I bought hasn't been renovated yet. That's the place I will live in the future. I need to find a good renovation team. Then can I ask you out for dinner next time? Wen Muyao wanted to join me, but seeing my somewhat indifferent gaze, she awkwardly turned back. I smiled slightly. If I have time. The sunlight cast a light golden hue on my face and body. It added a faint touch of gold. In an instant, Wen Muyao could hear her heart beating like a drum. She opened her mouth. Then it settled. She nodded. I'll be on my way then. Wen Muyao stared blankly at my back for a long time. Only then did she suddenly come back to her senses. Like a fool, she took out her phone. She stared at my satellite avatar. A very simple name. There was no information in the friend circle either. However, the corners of Wen Muyao's mouth couldn't help but rise wildly. She finally added my satellite. And she also learned my name. Zhang Chen. And it was also the same surname as hers. Isn't this destined to make us family? Wen Muyao took a deep breath. She returned home in an extremely good mood. If Shanghang Real Estate is the real estate boss of Sea City, then Cold Moon Jewelry is the symbol of wealth in Sea City. And I am also one of the shareholders of Cold Moon Jewelry. When I became a shareholder of Cold Moon Jewelry, I used the remaining fate I had left on me to save the nearly bankrupt Kaya family with stones, and became the greatest benefactor of the Lang family, and received 10% of the shares in Kaya Yu Jewelry. And the young lady of the Lang family, Lang Chuyan, was the first friend I made. She is 4 years older than me. After graduating from university, she returned to Sea City to start a business. And coincidentally, she is an interior designer. So I called Lang Chuyan, asking her to help me see how to decorate my new house to look the best. Lang Chuyan's pleasant laughter soon came through. It's like the sun is shining from the west. Has our handsome guy finally decided to buy himself a house? I thought you were going to live in school forever. Lang Chuyan was very happy to receive my call. Where are you now? I'm not busy at the moment. I'll come over to find you right away. Lang Chuyan always places me as her top priority. Coincidentally, her office building is not far from Construction Road. Soon, Cold Chuyan will successfully meet with me. Cold Chuyan is an exceptionally beautiful girl. She also has a very cheerful personality. She is straightforward. That's what I like about her. Cold Chuyan looked at me and asked, why did you suddenly think about buying a house? I was just joking on the phone earlier. But Cold Chuyan is still concerned. She's worried that I've encountered something bad. Her expression is somewhat worried. I looked at her and smiled slightly. I just want to buy one. What have you been busy with lately? Seeing my smile, Cold Chuyan's pretty face instantly turned red. Busy with what? As she spoke, she touched her face, trying to cover her embarrassment. It's been a long time since I've seen you. How have you been lately? I reached out and touched her head. Not bad. Can you accompany me to look at some houses first? I'll treat you to a meal later. Meanwhile, Wen Muyao returned home. As soon as she walked in, she keenly noticed. The atmosphere in the living room seemed a bit off. Wen Yushin never expected to personally get involved. He also ended up with a face full of dust. That's just how it is. But as he was leaving, the other party even pointed at him and cursed. He maintained a serious expression the whole way. When he finally got home, Wen Yushin finally couldn't take it anymore. He kicked over and shattered the vase in the corner of the living room. Then he glared fiercely at Lu Wei. What were you doing with me today? Was I asking you to stand there like a wooden dummy? You can't say a word. As a respectable chairman, I was actually cursed at by that brat. You think that's funny, don't you? Hearing this, Lu Hui's eyes turned red with grievance. How could I possibly feel happy? I clearly had good intentions to adopt him. But he said we were hypocritical. Say we repay kindness with enmity. Like a pest, huh? Luckily, I made up a story at that time. To let him know he is the true heir of the Wen family. Otherwise, the Wen family would surely be restless. He really grew up outside. He doesn't understand any rules at all. Lu Wei wiped away the tears at the corner of her eyes. He was unwilling to be adopted. Then let's not adopt him. The servants are not in the living room. So Wen Yushin didn't hold back either. You make it sound easy. I actually don't want to interfere. What if others find out about his identity later? What will we do if his identity sets a trap for the Wen family? Just casually doing something. If that gets out, it would be embarrassing for the Wen family. If he has no manners, then bring him back and teach him. If he doesn't understand, then bring him back and force him to learn. After saying that, he glanced at Lu Wei again. A woman is just a woman. Long hair, shallow understanding. Only sees the small patch of land in front of her. It's better not to know of Wen Chen's existence. As long as someone knows about Wen Chen's, his existence means he must be brought back. Wen Yushin's words sound very reasonable. Lu Wei sat resentfully on the sofa. She felt both angry and wronged inside. But Xiao Chen doesn't want to be adopted either. He certainly can't tell him his true identity. If he goes home as a biological son, what about Qingyu? If he knows he's the child swapped at birth, he definitely wouldn't be able to accept that. Wen Yushin shot a glare at Lu Wei. What's more important, Qingyu or the Wen family? Moreover, when did I ever say that? I would tell him his true identity. At this point, a hint of ruthlessness flashed in Wen Yushin's eyes. People, you know. People talk tough until they are pushed to the brink. You don't need to worry about this matter. I will find a way to bring him back. What you need to do is to educate him well after he returns. Wen Yushin said this and got up to go upstairs. Lu Wei probably understood what Wen Yushin wanted to do. Knowing that I would inevitably have to return, I thought again about my earlier attitude. I only felt that I was unfortunate. Lu Wei felt wronged and tears streamed down her face. At this moment, Wen Muyao returned. Seeing her mother cry like this, her heart suddenly skipped a beat. Mom, what happened? Why are you crying? Where's Dad? Didn't you go to pick up that little hoodlum today? Seeing her daughter Lu Wei looking increasingly sad, wiping the tears from her face with a handkerchief, she recounted everything that happened today from beginning to end. She emphasized the things I said to them. Then he complained to Wen Muyao about his grievances. Muyao was very angry. In her heart, her so-called biological brother was just a little thug. A little thug being able to come to the Wen family should be deeply grateful. However, the other party showed no gratitude at all. Instead, he spoke harshly to her parents. Did he think he was something special? If it weren't for their blood relation, who would even spare him a glance? Bah, what a worthless thing. For a moment, Muyao even forgot about my existence. Mom, don't cry. Dad is right. People like him must be brought back, to avoid losing the Wen family's face outside. Then Muyao let out a cold laugh. Many things can only be done after he returns. Driven mad by anger, Muyao didn't expect the coincidence. Only thinking about how to teach the other party a profound lesson. I took Lang Chuyan to see Yi. I was just about to take her out for a meal. It just so happened that Lang Chuyan had something to do near her company. I had no choice but to give up. I grabbed a quick bite and then returned to school. I have a single dormitory at school. It's a 2-story villa. The first floor is where I live. The second floor is where I keep some small experimental equipment. It's used for researching the scientific projects assigned by the system. Just as I arrived at the villa, the phone rang. To my surprise, it was the landlord calling. Zhang Chen Kiss. Have you offended someone recently? As soon as the landlord arrived, he got straight to the point. Someone is willing to pay double the price to rent the apartment you are currently leasing. They also said you have to move out within 3 days. Of course, I refused to agree. But he was actually willing to pay 4 times the price. Because I helped the landlord with a favor. So our relationship is relatively good. Currently. But before the profit, the quadrupled housing prices can no longer be managed. I know the family is taking action. I said directly and straightforwardly. I understand, Sister Yun. I will come back tomorrow to pack my things. The landlord also felt a bit embarrassed. Love, I think. That's not what I meant. I was just telling you. I won't rent it to them. I smiled slightly. Go ahead and rent. 4 times the rent. Why not sing? Anyway, I can stay at school. But my situation. I hope Sister Yun won't tell them. Sister Yun agreed repeatedly. I definitely won't tell them. But why are they targeting you? Do you need any help? I know a few people here. Sister Yun felt a bit apologetic. Yapping on and on. I casually replied a few words and hung up the phone. There was a chill in my eyes. I know Yun Tian will act. I thought about how anxious he was. So anxious. He took action. Truly, he is worthy of being called a capitalist. He jumps over the wall so quickly. Thinking of this, I raised an eyebrow. I opened my phone. I saw that Wen Muyao had sent me several messages. After thinking for a moment, I casually picked a message to reply. Then I called my visible mentor. Teacher, I've encountered some trouble recently. My visible mentor is named Zhang Shen. Zhang Shen is from Kyoto. He is one of the 4 sent to assist me. One of the 4 miscellaneous people. His background is unfathomable. All the teachers at the school, including the principal, has to show him great respect. Several times, the mayor of C City has sought him out. The respect in his words was almost overflowing. Upon hearing this, Zhang Shen's voice immediately became tense. Xiao Chen. What happened? I was very calm and slowly recounted the situation. I offended someone. I didn't conceal the fact that the Wen family wanted to adopt me. I just brushed over it lightly. But even so, it was enough to make Zhang Shen feel angry. After all, Zhang Shen is not one to act out of character. Instead, he is a calm and reserved child. At such a young age, he has made such a great contribution to the country. He also holds so many important projects in his hands. Yet he never reveals even a hint to the outside world. Nor does he proactively provoke anyone. Zhang Shen furrowed his brows, trying hard to figure out how to resolve this issue. Zhang Shen is not just his student. He is also an important researcher valued by the higher UPS. The project is nearing its completion stage. Suddenly, the Wen family emerged to adopt him as their son. Could it be that someone is instructing them to do this? After a moment, Zhang Shen spoke in a deep voice. Xiao Chen, you should stay at school for now. Don't go out unless necessary. I will send someone to investigate this matter. When I have some time, I will personally take you to see the properties. You can choose whatever place you want to buy. After comforting me a few times, Zhang Shen hung up the phone. A faint smile tugged at the corners of my mouth. Just as I was about to turn off my phone, I saw a message from Wen Muyao. Brother Chen, are you free right now? I'm near Linan University right now. Can you come out for a barbecue with me? I certainly wouldn't refuse. After all, if nothing goes wrong, soon, Wen Muyao will know my identity. Before that, I naturally need to boost her favorability toward me. I don't want her to escape too quickly. After hanging up the phone, I quickly made my way to the appointment. When I saw Wen Muyao, I smiled at her, gazing at the handsome face I had dreamed of. Wen Muyao stared for a second or two before coming to her senses. She felt her ears getting a bit hot. She awkwardly said, "It's getting late. I'm really sorry to bother you." I'm embarrassed. Compared to Wen Muyao's nervousness, I appeared very calm and composed. Just in time, I'm hungry too. Didn't we say we were going to eat barbecue? There's a barbecue place near Linan University that is especially delicious. I'll take you there. Wen Muyao nodded dazedly like a garlic pounder. We went into the restaurant. I calmly handed the menu on the table to Wen Muyao. Take a look at what you want to eat. You can order first. Wen Yao smiled. I'm fine with whatever. I'm not picky. Alright then. I'm not going to pressure her either. I can let Yao choose. But I definitely won't be too attentive to her. I cleared my mind. No intention to talk to Wen Muyao. In response, Wen Muyao felt a bit restless. She thought and thought again. Finally, she thought of the perfect topic to break the silence. We ordered so many spicy dishes. Shouldn't we buy some water to drink? I snapped back to reality. Hearing this, I finally came back to my senses. Just pay attention, that's all. Wen Muyao then asked. So what kind of water do you like to drink? Do you like to drink milk tea? If not, I can go buy some milk tea. Wen Muyao didn't finish her sentence. Suddenly, a cup of fruit tea was placed on our table. Wen Muyao was taken aback and looked up. She saw an exceptionally beautiful girl. At that moment, the girl was smiling at me. Is another person out for a late night snack? This is the cheese jasmine you like. The girl looked to be around 20. Her first sentence revealed her true nature. Almost instantly, alarms went off in Wen Muyao's mind. As for me, I was slightly intrigued. Senior sister, what are you doing here? The girl's name is Shan Qingxue. She is a student from the chemistry department of Linan University. She is 1 year older than me. She is also one of the school beauties. Countless boys in school pursue her. But she is particularly fond of me. Perhaps it's due to her pride. Shen Qingxue never admits to others that she likes me. However, as long as she has time, wherever I appear, she will definitely chase after me quickly. If there's a girl walking with me, she will use some tactics to make the other person back off. It's the same now. Her first sentence expresses hostility towards Wen Muyao. The second sentence indicates that she is familiar with me. Plus, with her looks, a girl with slightly fragile feelings would not dare to face the challenge. But Wen Muyao is not an ordinary person. She quickly realizes that the person in front of her must be her rival in love. She takes a deep breath, and her desire to win ignites fiercely within her. Shen Qingxue pulls the chair next to me and sits down. And as she sits down, there are 3 other girls of similar age to her. They pulled out chairs and sat down together. The table that originally seated 4 people suddenly became 6. It became a bit crowded. Wen Muyao's expression turned cold. Meanwhile, the 3 of them were already smiling. They began to introduce themselves to me. Hello, Junior DD. My name is Huang Yanyan. I share a dorm with Shen Qingxue. My name is Li Qian. My name is Xia Bingbing. All 3 of them were good-looking with bright eyes. After the self-introductions were over, Huang Yanyan sincerely apologized to me. She said they were very sorry for coming uninvited. As soon as she finished speaking, Li Qian chimed in. But Shen Qingxue has been talking about you to us. We are really very curious. Xia Bingbing also said. She almost praised you to the skies. We thought she was exaggerating. Seeing you today, it truly lives up to its reputation. Shen Qingxue smiled and interrupted them. What is there to say? Junior, don't listen to them. They just like to talk nonsense all day. The 4 of them were bantering back and forth, completely excluding Wen Muyao. This is exactly the scene I wanted to see. I glanced at Wen Muyao out of the corner of my eye. Seeing her face was already looking very terrible. I pursed my lips and gave a polite smile. Hello, senior sisters. This is my friend, Wen Muyao. I'm out to dinner with her tonight. I can't let Wen Muyao be too embarrassed. At least not now. And in this situation, help Wen Muyao out. Not to mention her feelings for me would soar. At least by about 5%, right? Shen Qingshui's smile froze for a moment. But soon her gaze shifted to Wen Muyao. So you were the junior's friend? Sorry. I didn't see you just now. And Shen Qingshui's 3 friends also said, I'm really sorry. The 4 of them spoke in a perfunctory tone. However, Wen Muyao let out a deep sigh. She said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. It's okay. Since she's brother Chen's senior. Then she's also my senior. Shen Qingshui's smile froze again. Although it was just for a moment. I smiled. I was very happy to see such a scene. Wen Muyao truly is a member of the Wen family. She can stand her ground against 4 people. After a barbecue meal, she never fell behind. The 4 of them kept trying to get her to drink. But Wen Muyao managed to take them all down. I saw it was getting late and suggested leaving. Wen Xinyao kills people and breaks their hearts. She said to the still somewhat rational Shen Qingshu. That's senior sister Shen. We're leaving first, brother Chen. Shen Qingshui is really too drunk. There's no helping it. I can only watch helplessly as I leave with Wen Muyao. The night breeze is slightly cool. I glanced at Wen Muyao, whose face was slightly flushed. I gently took a breath. I'm really sorry today. I've caused you trouble. Wen Muyao is a bit drunk too. Her speech has become slightly unsteady. How can this be considered suffering? It's just drinking a bit of alcohol. We're young, after all. I raised my eyebrows. So, do you often go to bars to drink? No wonder one person can get all 4 of them drunk. As soon as those words were spoken, Wen Muyao felt a jolt in her heart. She instantly came to her senses. I don't usually drink. Today, the seniors treated me warmly. Naturally, I couldn't refuse their kindness. Alcohol, this thing. Drinking too much is indeed harmful to the body. Wen Muyao hurriedly looked for an excuse to remedy the situation. But the more she spoke, the more it felt like she was trying to cover up a flaw. A trace of annoyance appeared on her face. That's right. Drinking too much is harmful to the body. I had no intention of talking too much with Wen Muyao, while the other party was still excited. As long as I pointed out a small mistake of hers. Just a slight change in attitude would be enough to make her doubt her life. I raised my hand. You wait for me here. Let me buy something first. After I said that, I turned around and left. Seeing this, Wen Muyao felt a jolt in her heart. Oh no, I said the wrong thing. Now, his impression of me must have worsened. He must think that I am a bad girl who often frequents bars. Thinking of this, Wen Muyao's drunkenness faded away completely. Her heart was filled with annoyance, anxiety, and unease. Wen Chen is so outstanding and so handsome. There must be quite a few suitors. Just like that Shen Qingshui from earlier. Although she's somewhat unpleasant. But listening to her conversation and seeing her outfit, he knows her family background is good. Yet, brother Chen remains indifferent towards her. Even when those girls took turns pouring drinks for themselves. Brother Chen also helped me drink quite a bit. Wen Muyao felt really stupid. Why didn't she just pretend to be drunk earlier? Maybe brother Chen would have even taken her home. The more Wen Muyao thought about it, the more frustrated she felt. Just as she was lost in her thoughts. Suddenly a box of medicine appeared in front of her. Wen Muyao followed the hand and looked up. She saw me smiling at her. Under the light of the street lamp. This was a striking beauty. Just like the male protagonist stepping out of a novel. In an instant, Wen Muyao's heart began to race uncontrollably. I stuffed the hangover remedy in Wen Muyao's hand. Holding it. This is the hangover remedy. It might make you feel better after taking it. At that moment, it seemed as if fireworks were bursting in Wen Muyao's mind. Spring is warm and flowers are blooming. This is truly a wonderful night. I know that to make someone completely fall in love with you, you must repeatedly tug at their emotions. And tell her whole being's emotions are influenced by my every move. Then it's pretty much settled. So when Wen Muyao came home to send me a message saying she was safe, I pretended not to see it. Not a single word in response. After finishing my own tasks, I went to sleep. The next morning, I woke up. The first thing I did after waking up was check my phone. I saw Wen Muyao send over 20 messages one after another. I'm home now. Thank you for the hangover remedy. After I took it, I don't feel dizzy at all. Have you made it to school? The messages were about every half hour apart. At first, everything was normal. But as time went on, the tone of Wen Muyao's messages changed. I don't really know how to say it. But I usually drink very little. Tonight is really an exception. The latest message was at 2 a.m. Looking at the panic reflected from the screen, I raised an eyebrow and smiled. Then I replied briefly. I was too tired last night. I fell asleep as soon as I got back. I'm sorry. Maybe Wen Muyao didn't sleep all night. The moment my message was sent, she replied in an instant. So you actually fell asleep? I thought you didn't want to talk to me. There was also a sad emoji at the end of the message. I found it amusing to look at. Before I could reply, Wen Muyao sent another message. Are you free today? I know a great Japanese restaurant. I need to go pick up my things from the rental today. It's not much, just some sheets, bedding, and toiletries. A suitcase can hold it all. But even so, going back seems like a good option. After all, she drank last night and must be feeling unwell. She must be quite uncomfortable. So I replied, I'm moving today. I'm moving. Wen Muyao immediately said, she could come help me move. I naturally wouldn't agree to her right away. But Wen Muyao was quite persistent. She said she was already at the gate of Linnan University, waiting for me right at the school gate. As expected, she didn't sleep all night. At this moment, I felt great. Alright then. Wait for me at the east gate of the school. I'll be out in a bit. At 8 in the morning, the bustling airport. A handsome young man appeared in the airport lobby. Next to him was a tall woman. The young man was dragging a huge suitcase. They were chatting and laughing together. Both of them had striking looks. attracted the attention of passers-by, who frequently looked back. Sister, do you think Mom and Dad will be surprised that we came back so early? Will Mom and Dad be very surprised? The handsome young man is the adopted son of the family, Yu. A month ago, when Qingyu was on his way to school, when he had a minor car accident, he got a scratch on his face, leaving a faint mark. When Qingyu, who usually pays attention to his appearance, could not stand having a scar on his face. To get rid of this mark, Wen Qingyu called his sister, who was already in college, Wen Yuding, to go to Hangguo together for treatment. They only returned to the country today. Wen Qingyu smiled happily. However, Dad might have already gone to the company. He works hard. When he returns, I want to personally make him a delicious meal. A heartfelt dinner from his biological son. Wen Qingyu is unaware that he is not the adopted son of the Wen family. The Wen family sincerely loves him. After learning that he has no blood relation to them, their first reaction is to keep this matter a secret. Looking at Wen Qingyu's beaming face, Wen Yuding, walking beside him, glanced at him. Her eyes were filled with affection. She felt a pang of pity in her heart. Qingyu still doesn't know that after this return, he will no longer be the only son of the Wen family. At the thought of this, Wen Yuding took a deep breath. She lowered her eyes. There was a hint of disgust in her eyes. She just hopes that boy can be a bit more insightful, and not fantasize about unrealistic things. Otherwise, even if she is his biological sister, she would definitely not let him off the hook. On the other side, the villa of Linnan University. At this moment, Muyao is starting to doubt her life. Because my dormitory is a 2-story villa, and at Linnan University, being able to live in a 2-story villa, are at least at the level of professors, or they are people who have made significant contributions to the school. But looking at him, he clearly seems too young to be a professor. So he must be someone who has made significant contributions to the school. But the last student who made a significant contribution to the school was in the global robotics competition and won the special prize. That was 5 years ago. The reputation of Linnan University spread instantly throughout Wagwo. 5 years ago when the competition started, Muyao was specifically watching the TV, and that senior named Bai Zhenya naturally became her idol in her heart. Entering the villa and sitting on the sofa, when Muyao's fair face turned red, she felt a bit dazed overall. She couldn't believe that this handsome boy in front of her could actually be on the same level as her idol. Because I did some things. So my mentor specially requested this villa for me. When Muyao's eyes widened. What did you do? I pressed my lips together. Sorry. This needs to be kept confidential. If things go smoothly, you should know in a few months. When Muyao swallowed. Is it something remarkable? What is it about? I shook my head. Sorry. You can't know this. I signed a confidentiality agreement. She gasped. Confidentiality agreement. But you look about the same age as me. The corners of my mouth slightly lifted. Can't young people have achievements? The sun has come out. Let me appear handsome and mysterious. I'll treat you to a meal. I proactively changed the subject. When Muyao felt a whirlwind of emotions inside, she wanted to ask again. She didn't ask. But looking at my expression, she also knew she wouldn't be able to find out anything. You are amazing. For a moment, my status in Wen Muyao's heart rose by more than one level. At that moment, in her gaze towards me, besides the burning affection, there was also deep respect. I smiled and nodded. All right. So, are we going to eat? Cheers. Just as Wen Muyao's words fell, suddenly the phone rang. She took out her phone to take a look. The screen displayed the words, Brother Qingyu, flashing. It was a call from Wen Qingyu. In the past, when Wen Muyao received a call from Wen Qingyu, she would always be very happy. But now, Wen Muyao glanced at me, and seeing that I looked normal, she answered the call. On the other end of the line, Wen Qingyu's voice came through. Yao Yao. I'm back now. Bone. I'm about to go home soon. You didn't skip class today, did you? Wen Qingyu chattered on and on. Wen Muyao, however, didn't catch any of it. Her mind was filled only with thoughts about me. The more she thought, the more she felt that I was too outstanding. If I could find a boyfriend like this, I would probably be envied by everyone. She felt a fire of excitement inside. Muyao's heart was ablaze with feelings. She interrupted Wen Qingyu a bit impatiently, saying, Good Bone. I still have some things to take care of. I'll talk to you more about it when I come back tonight. After saying that, Wen Muyao didn't wait for Wen Qingyu's response. She simply hung up the phone. And on the other end of the line, Wen Qingyu, hearing the beeping sound from the receiver, had a confused and incredulous look on his face. Wen Yuding sat beside him. Sensing the change in his mood, she asked, Liao Yu. Wen Qingyu finally came to his senses. He pressed his lips together. His mood suddenly worsened significantly. Wen Muyao actually hung up on him. What the heck? That spoiled girl Muyao must be up to something. She actually hung up on me. Topic. After Wen Muyao hung up on Wen Qingyu's call, she explained to me that the one who called was her brother. She said her brother had a minor accident a while ago. He went out to play for a while. He's back in the country today. I smiled. He just returned and is already calling you. It seems you two have a good relationship. Wen Muyao nodded. It's quite good. After all, he's my only brother. He's the same age as you this year. If you two were to meet, you should have a lot in common to talk about. Wen Muyao excitedly talked about her family matters. She wanted to draw closer to me. When it came to mentioning that Wen Qingyu was about the same age as me, she immediately perked up. If my brother could really become good friends with Brother Chen, wouldn't they give her an even bigger chance? Why not at some time? I introduce you two to each other? Wen Muyao's face was filled with excitement. She completely didn't see the cold indifference hidden in my eyes. Such wealth. I'm really looking forward to it. I had lunch together with Wen Yao. We ate at a Japanese restaurant near the school. After lunch, we went our separate ways. When Wen Qingyu returned home, it was already dark outside. Only Lu Wei and the servants were still at home. Wen Qingyu was not disappointed by this. He carefully put on the gift he selected in Hangguo for Lu Wei. Lu Wei held onto Wen Qingyu and wouldn't let go. If you have money, why not keep it for yourself? Wen Qingyu smiled faintly. He thought this necklace looked great on his mother. Then it was bought. Besides, what's wrong with buying a gift for mom? When I earn money myself in the future, I'll buy mom gifts every day. Wen Qingyu's words are incredibly sweet. He had Lu Wei grinning from ear to ear. This heartwarming scene also eased Wen Yuthing's anger. She originally thought she would meet her so-called biological brother upon returning. She didn't expect he wouldn't come back. It would be better if he never came back. Out there, she could give him a large sum of money. Unfortunately, her parents didn't agree with her suggestion. After returning, she planned when to meet Qingyu. However, before she could figure out the timing, the Gu family's company was first. First, the tax bureau came to audit the company. Secondly, the collaboration with the Wen family faced cancellations one after another. This made the new projects invested by the Wen family impossible to continue. This series of events left Wen Yeshan overwhelmed. Having spent long years mingling in the business circles, he knew someone was deliberately out to get him. So he spent a large sum of money to inquire from his previous partners about the situation. At first, they were unwilling to talk. They only disclosed a little because they felt sorry for him. You must have offended 2 people recently. The ones dealing with you have significant backgrounds. It doesn't allow us to say anything more about it. Upon hearing this, Wen Yeshan got anxious. He racked his brain but couldn't figure out who he had offended. The Wen family's situation could be described as dire. It was useless to seek help from anyone. The network of relationships he had maintained with great expense now told Wen Yeshan, "You don't have to be too anxious. I've faintly heard some hints from above, saying you are bullying important talents of the country, so they just wanted to give you a small lesson." Wen Yeshan felt this was very unfair. Important talents of the country? How could I bully important talents of the country? Aren't I just idly doing nothing? The other party sighed and pointed out, "Did you rent a house for several times the price a few days ago?" "At that price a few days ago?" Wen Yeshan instinctively retorted. "I went to rent a 1-bedroom apartment for 1,000. Before he finished talking, he suddenly thought of something. Something done a few days ago to force Zhang Chen to submit. His heart suddenly jolted. Then an overwhelming sense of disbelief surged within him. You mean?" Seeing that Wen Yeshan remembered, the other party no longer concealed anything. "I heard you wanted to adopt that young man as your son. That young man's identity is quite something. The higher UPS initially considered you a spy and investigated. They found no issues with you. I'm just giving you a simple lesson. Listen to me. This time, there's no need to look for anything. It would be useless. Just make up for the money that needs to be compensated. Consider it a loss to avoid disaster. As for those collaborations, an apology is mandatory. Understand?" After saying that, the other party directly hung up the phone. Listening to the beeping sound on the other end of the phone, Wen Yeshan's shock and confusion were beyond words. He stood there dumbfounded. He had never thought that his own son, whom he despised, could be a national talent. After all, from the information he had gathered, the other party was just a high school dropout, a small-time delinquent. He had never imagined he could be so capable. At such a young age, he had actually become a talent valued by the country. Just by taking a little action against him, he almost got mistaken for a spy. For a moment, Wen Yeshan felt immense regret. But soon his regret was replaced by overwhelming pride and excitement. Since that's the case, then Zhang Chen could no longer return home as an adopted son. Zhang Chen must be his biological son. But if that's the case, what about Qingyu? Lu Wei suddenly came to her senses. Qian Yu has been by our side since he was little. If she finds out that he isn't our biological child, he definitely won't be able to handle it. Wen Yeshan frowned and said, "There's nothing we can do. We can only make things difficult for him. Go get ready. I'll go find him tomorrow to clarify things." To return so quickly, because of what happened earlier, Lu Wei is somewhat resistant to bringing Zhang Chen home. Of course, she's more afraid that she won't be able to accept it. But how does this relate to Qingyu? Wen Yeshan glanced at her. "Just tell him the truth." Lu Wei sighed heavily. She grabbed Wen Yeshan's sleeve back. "Can we say that they are twins? Even though they look different, there are such things as fraternal twins. Although I've only met him once, Wen Yeshan can tell that Zhang Chen is not someone easy to bully. Moreover, he has the backing of the country." At noon, Wen's parents confessed to Wen Qingyu. Wen Yu, who returned home a few days ago, was stunned and dizzy by this news. "How could this happen? Mom, how could this be? How could I possibly not be your son? You must be kidding." Despite Wen Yeshan's insistence, Lu Wei still informed Wen Qingyu about this matter. Wen Qingyu couldn't believe it. However, Lu Wei had a look of acknowledgement and worry on her face. She even took out a paternity test report. She also pulled out a notification. Wen Qingyu was internally devastated. This matter was soon discovered by Wen Muyao and Wen Yuding. Upon learning that their mother actually revealed the truth to Wen Qingyu, both expressed that they could not accept it. They questioned Lu Wei repeatedly about why she did this. After all, they had agreed from the beginning to let Zhang Chen return as an adopted son. Lu Wei didn't want it either, so she cried while explaining the reason to her 2 daughters. She emphasized Zhang Chen's insults towards them. The tactics used by the angel were brushed over. The box lingered in Lu Hui's memory. Ku Chen is a splendor. but he is a person without manners or upbringing. Wen Yuding was very angry about this. However, Wen Muyao felt something was off as she listened. Dai felt that things were a bit too. If her brother really was just a high school delinquent, it would be fine. But he is an important person in the country. He is highly valued by the country. Some time ago, someone came to say they wanted to adopt him. They forced him to move. Why does that sound so familiar? For some unknown reason, Wen Yao couldn't help but ask, "What's her name?" Lu Wei wiped her tears. Chen. In an instant, Yao had another person whose heart was struck. Chen Zhao Chen. Wen Muyao's face turned pale instantly. "I've been staying in the lab for these days. I have been staying up for several nights in a row. I feel a bit dazed overall. I've been in the lab for a few days. Several teachers led by Zhang Dian. They stayed in the lab with me for a few days. But after all, I am getting older. With limited energy, they can't manage like I do. Staying up for days and nights without rest. When they couldn't hold on, they'd return to the lounge to rest for a few hours. The four of them also advised me not to rush. But I just want to complete the project research sooner." Zhang Dian and others thought I was provoked by the Wen family. I was both angry and worried. At the first moment I learned the Wen family was coming. They came running to inform me. "Little Chen, the Wen family is here to see you again. Go wash your face and meet them. They must be here to apologize to you." Upon hearing this, I was jolted awake. I rubbed my face vigorously. "Where are they now?" Zhang Shen immediately said. "They're waiting for you at the school entrance. They even brought big bags and small packages. They're definitely here to apologize to you." "What does the Ga family count as? If Lin Chen has any mishaps, the compensation from 10 Wen families wouldn't be enough." He nodded. "All right. I will finish this little bit of work and then go out. Although this project is very important. But I laid the plans for so long just for today. I wonder what they will say today. Thinking about it makes me a bit excited." The Wen family's apology this time was almost a full-scale mobilization. Everyone else came except for those who were out of town. He didn't actually need to come. The Wen family unanimously suggested that he stay at home to adjust his mood. However, Wen Qingyu stated that I am the most innocent one among them. He has enjoyed a lavish life in my place for so many years. Naturally, he should also take part in the apology now. Wen Qingyu is so understanding. It makes Lu Wei and Wen Yunting very distressed. My dissatisfaction has grown even more. As for the inside, besides, I'm afraid my idol and my brother are the same person. Don't you have any other thoughts? After all, the situation is just too coincidental. The coincidence made her feel anxious and terrified. What terrified her even more was, her real brother's school is actually Linan University too. Holding on to the last glimmer of hope, Wen Muyao accompanied Wen Yeshan and others, waiting for her brother to come out under the blazing sun. And when she truly saw that familiar figure, in that instant, she even felt like wanting to die. "I came straight here from the lab. You are the ones looking for me. Is there something you need? You're not going to force me to carry your son again, are you?" The Wen family members are all dressed extremely elegantly today. It's obvious they take this apology very seriously. I spotted them immediately at the busy school gate. Of course, I also saw Wen Muyao, looking as if she had been struck by lightning. I narrowed my eyes slightly. Expressionless, I shifted my gaze away. My gaze swept across Wen Qingyu, whose face didn't look good. His smile was very forced. Lu Hui's eyes were filled with dissatisfaction. Wen Yuding was full of hostility. Only Wen Yeshan's face was filled with smiles. And his eyes were full of ambition and pride. Wen Yeshan hadn't even had a chance to speak. Wen Yuding next to him got angry. "Is this how you speak to your elders?" I raised my eyebrows slightly. My gaze wandered around Yeshan's face, referring to his inexplicable son. "Those who try to force me back when I disagree will face my methods." Wen Yuding frowned. "What are you talking about?" Before I could finish my words, I was interrupted by Wen Yeshan. "Shut up. What did I tell you before we came?" Wen Yeshan shot a glare at Wen Yuding. Then he turned to me with a big smile on his face. "Your name is Zhang Chen now, right? I was in the wrong last time. I'm here specifically to apologize to you this time." As he said this, Wen Yeshan gave Lu Wei a look. Lu Wei immediately took out a gold card. A forced smile appeared on her face. "Child, this is a small token of our goodwill. Please accept it." I straightforwardly declined. In fact, renting that particular house for 4 times the price has no impact on me. It doesn't affect me at all. After all, the school assigned me a villa. I only stay in that house occasionally. So, I accept your apology. No need for compensation. Upon hearing this, Wen Yeshan immediately said, "How can that be? This matter was originally my fault. My intention was to buy you a house. It was because of what you said back then. It made me somewhat angry. So I wanted to scare you a little. At my age, how could I still argue with a young guy like you? It's all my fault." Wen Yeshan had already thought out his speech before coming. His words were even more pleasant than singing. But I remained unaffected. My expression didn't change at all. I quietly watched them act. Seeing this, Wen Yeshan also couldn't speak straightforwardly. He thought for a moment. "Actually, I came today not only to apologize. There's something else I need to tell you. I have reserved a table at Lo Xuan Pavilion. It's just about time for lunch now. Let's go eat while we talk." I refused without hesitation. "No, thank you. If there's anything, just say it now." The moment I saw Wen Qingyu come in earlier, I guessed Wen Yeshan's purpose for today. It's just that he wants to see how successful I've become. So he wants to acknowledge me as his biological son. I just wonder what Qingyu feels about it. Nishan must be very uncomfortable about it. Thinking of this brings me great satisfaction. But on the surface, it showed no signs at all. Wen Yeshan had clearly made sufficient psychological preparations. He wasn't angry about being rejected and continued to smile. Let's just go eat something. Luo Xuanding isn't far from here either. He was interrupted before finishing his sentence. No. Open black lens bracket. My time is very tight. I have other things to attend to shortly. Wen Yeshan smiled. It's just a meal after all. It won't take much time. Open black lens bracket. He shook his head. But I don't want to eat with you all. Being refused time and again. No matter how well Wen Yeshan prepared himself psychologically, he was a bit annoyed at this moment. The smile on his face faded slightly. He took a deep breath. He was just about to say something. Wen Yuding beside him spoke up. It's just asking you to go eat a meal, right? What are you being so arrogant about? And saying you don't want to eat with us? Who do you think you are? Her voice was a bit sharp. At the bustling school gate. Immediately, people turned to see the commotion. Smiling slightly. What's the big deal for me? What's so remarkable about public service? I have the right to refuse to eat with you. After saying that, I turned around and left. Completely refused to give the Wen family another chance to speak. Quickly blended into the crowd. The people's sentiments changed rapidly. Wen Yuding became furious. Meanwhile, Wen Yeshan felt both angry and furious. But looking at the people coming and going around, it was obviously not the time to talk. He could only barely suppress his inner anger. He shot a fierce glare at Wen Yuding. Going home. At this time, I was heading toward the dormitory. Because I had been in the lab for the past few days, I felt a bit tired. At that moment, I ran into Shen Qingxue. Since that day when Wen Muyao knocked her down after drinking, she hasn't appeared in front of me again. At this moment, Shen Qingxue is smiling at me. Junior brother. What a coincidence. I glanced at her nonchalantly. This is my way back to the dorm. Shen Qingxue smiled. I know. I intentionally came to stop you. It's because I'm good looking. I have a bunch of admirers at school. Moreover, when I first entered the campus, the fact that I lived in a villa was exposed. The school didn't provide much explanation for this. The classmates at school started speculating about my background. Then, 4 big shots. Level mentors took on research projects. So most people at school think I have a significant background. Most likely, I am the young master of some prominent family in the capital. Or perhaps I'm the son of some major company's old man. When I first entered school, it almost caused a sensation in the entire school. The essence of not being pursued is simply being fickle. Moreover, I tend to be low-key. For quite a while, my presence at school has faded. Aside from knowing about my existence, no one paid much attention to me anymore. Except for a small group of people who are obsessed with my looks. But after Shen Qingxue came along, those people dwindled significantly. Shen Qingxue smiled. It's now mealtime. Do you want to go eat together? That's how Shen Qingxue is. She surrounds me with all kinds of ambiguous actions. She says all sorts of enticing things. But she never expresses her true feelings. Deep down, I'm annoyed by her. But considering she can help me fend off more pursuers, I won't take the bait. I also won't say anything too harsh. But that's when I'm in a good mood. When I'm in a bad mood, I won't give her any face either. I'm not hungry right now. Although I'm in a good mood now, I'd rather go back and rest. I simply rejected it outright. Then I quickly walked past her. Behind me, Shen Qingxue's expression darkened. She coldly stared at my departing figure. On the other side, Wen Yeshan returned home in a furious rage with his family. After returning home, Wen Yeshan angrily smashed several vases. He also scolded Wen Yuding. Didn't I tell you not to speak recklessly? Do you think you're amazing just because you're his biological sister? Haven't I told you that he's someone the country values? What do you think you are? You still dare to shout at him in front of so many people? Wen Yeshan's reprimand of Wen Yuding was unrestrained. The entire villa echoed with her shouting. The servants didn't dare to approach. Wen Qingyu and Wen Muyao stood by, not daring to breathe. Lu Wei, on the other hand, could manage to say a few words. But she had just opened her mouth to say that Zhang Chen really does not respect his elders. He was shouted back by Wen Yeshan. He does not respect his elders. What kind of elder are you? You're his biological mother. But have you ever raised him for even a day? Moreover, he doesn't even know his own identity right now. He is your own son. You should have brought him back when you found out. Wen Yeshan's words are just a way to shirk responsibility. Although it was Lu Wei who brought up the idea, the identity of the adopted son brought Zhang Chen back. But it wasn't done without his approval. No one dared to do that. He thought at that time that a little punk was unworthy of the young master's status. Now it's different. Zhang Chen's excellence has completely surpassed the 3 wild sons of the Wen family. Wen Yeshan had no doubt that, in a few more years, Zhang Chen would definitely elevate the Wen family to an unprecedented height. Of course, all of this is premised on Zhang Chen returning to the Wen family, and the situation where he has affection for all of them is just right. But it seems unlikely now. Every time Wen Yeshan thinks about it, he feels annoyed. And then he couldn't stand the sight of Lu Wei and the others. He angrily stormed into the living room. After everyone had cursed him out, he just left the villa. As soon as he left, Wen Qingyu, who had been able to hold back his emotions, finally couldn't take it anymore. He didn't understand why he was being treated like this. Why had he become a fake young master from a novel? His father could turn on him just like that. Was all the love he had received before just fake? And why was Zhang Chen so exceptional? Thinking about Zhang Chen's performance today, Wen Qingyu clenched his fists tightly. Wen Yuding and Lu Wei didn't notice Wen Qingyu's gaze. After all, at times like this, no one's mood could be good. Especially Wen Muyao, who looked like a soulless puppet. It's disappointing to find out that the male god I liked is actually my older brother. The blow to her is simply immense. One could say that the entire Wen family is in utter chaos. The Wen family is not doing well. That makes me happy. After I sent the Wen family away, I went back to my dorm and slept for a long time. When I woke up, I saw a message from Wen Muyao. Can we meet up? I raised an eyebrow slightly. Then, I directly deleted Wen Muyao. Wen Yao sent another message, but the reply she received was a red exclamation mark. She realized she had been deleted by Zhang Chen. This added another layer of gloom to her already broken heart. She instantly felt despondent. After all, before this, she had never thought that the male god she admired would actually be her older brother, who was known to lack any skills. In her eyes, the boy she admired was like the clouds in the sky, and her biological brother is like mud on the ground. What kind of feeling is this? Wen Muyao didn't know how to express the complex feelings inside her. To be honest, she hasn't met Zhang Chen many times. If we're being honest, her feelings are deeply rooted. She can't let herself reach out. She can't let it last that long either. Just thinking about how he once amazed her. The guy who makes her heart race is her own brother. Their relationship has the chance to be stronger than love. She can't stop regretting and feeling frustrated inside. After all, he is such an outstanding guy. Even if they can't become a couple, being siblings is also great. But now, she has put in so much effort. Yet, it's just hard work for decades. It's like decades. And suddenly, they're back to square one. Chen looked at her. His gaze towards her was colder than that of a stranger. Muyao truly regrets it. She unconsciously mumbled to herself. Even if Qingyu is important. But it shouldn't have been used at that time. The identity of an adopted son to bring him back. Even if it's said to be fraternal twins, it's still better than the current situation, right? What was I really thinking back then? After all, he is my biological brother. Wen Muyao hid in her room, feeling an urge to cry. Just then, the door to her room was pushed open. Wen Yuding walked in with a gloomy face. She looked furious. You're hiding in here. Do you know how sad Qingyu is right now? Wen Muyao dully lifted her head. Wen Yuding pursed her lips. You still have the nerve to ask him what's wrong? Do you realize that he is packing his things in his room right now? He said he wants to leave the Wen family. My mom and I couldn't persuade him. He said he wants to return everything to Zhang Chen. Hearing this, Wen Muyao's expression changed slightly. He immediately got up and went to the living room. As soon as he arrived in the living room, he heard Lu Hui's voice. Qingyu, what are you doing? You're digging into mom's heart. How old were you when you were swapped? This isn't your fault. Please don't leave. If you leave, how will mom be? Zhou Yu, Qingyu. When Qingyu was preparing to leave the Wen family, just after Wen Yeshan reprimanded the family for Zhang Chen, he felt he couldn't stay at home any longer. Perhaps if he left, everything would return to normal. Zhang Chen could also return to the Wen family. Dad's troubles would be resolved too. Being swapped was indeed not his fault. But he really was the beneficiary. For so many years, he had been enjoying the other's resources in life. Although the other wasn't doing well either, he still felt like a thief. Mom, I will definitely come back to see you. Given the current situation, only by leaving everything can I get back on track. He can then return home without distractions. I won't blame you. He is your son. Wen Qingyu became more and more upset as he spoke. In the end, he fell silent. At that moment, there was a loud bang. The door was pushed open. Wen Muyao and Wen Yuding barged in. Yes, that's right, it is wrong. He is a member of the Wen family. But you are also my brother. You left. What should we do? You look at one person, then another. His face was filled with sorrow. Upon hearing this, Wen Qingyu lowered his head. Seeing this, Lu Wei quickly stepped forward to hug him and cried. Blood relations do not mean everything. In my heart, you are my true son. If you leave, what should mom do? You don't think about yourself. You should also think about mom. Yuding also nodded. In my heart, there is only this one little brother. As for the person, no matter how excellent he is, it has nothing to do with me. Wen Yuding glanced at Wen Muyao out of the corner of her eye. Wen Muyao pressed her lips together and let out a heavy sigh. In my heart, there's only you as my brother. Brother Qingyu. You don't want to. If you leave, this family will fall apart. Just when Muyao was still thinking, how nice it would have been if he had been welcomed as a biological son. How nice it would have been to welcome Zhang Chen in that capacity. But now, seeing Wen Qingyu so upset, she couldn't help but stand by Wen Qingyu's side, hoping he would stay. Wen Muyao tried to suppress her inner unease and sadness. Even if Zhang Haochen doesn't return to the Wen family, it doesn't matter. Anyway, he's doing well out there now. Looking at the three of them being so sincere, Wen Qingyu simply didn't know what to say. After a long while, he finally choked out. But Dad wants him to come back. And if I don't leave, he may not want to come back. In that case, Dad will blame you. Wen Muyao took a deep breath. Her face wore an expression of desperation. Relationship. He will come back. At worst, I'll just plead with him. Lu Wei wiped the tears from her eyes. I'll also plead with him. I told her his identity to plead for his return. If he doesn't come back, I'll kneel for him. Taiji Qingyu, don't go. Even if he doesn't come back, I don't want you to leave either. The emotion finally couldn't be contained. Tears flowed uncontrollably. Wen Yuding and Wen Yao beside her. Anger. Let out a sigh. It seems they won't be leaving for now. The entire Wen family is settling down. I don't know what happened to the Wen family. After a nap, I returned to the laboratory. The research hit a bottleneck. So I brought in 4 mentors to discuss. I wanted to hear their opinions. Family. To be precise. It was Lu Wei who brought her 3 children. As soon as she came up, she revealed her big card and said, she is my biological mother. She said she wanted to have a talk with me. I just laughed at that moment. You are my biological mother. Last time, didn't you say I was your Husband's life-saving benefactor's child? How did it change this time to being your biological son directly? There was no fluctuation in my eyes, but the corners of my mouth held a mocking curve. Lu Wei pressed her lips tightly. Before she could speak, Wen Qingyu beside her said apologetically, I'm sorry. The reason Mom said that is because of me. Wen Qingyu took a deep breath. This matter is a long story. If you don't mind, we can find a cafe to discuss it in full. I will tell you the whole story completely. What do you think? Wen Qingyu's expression was very sincere, yet carried a hint of sadness and resilience. I find it incredibly funny. In my previous life, every time Wen Qingyu made this expression, Wen Yuding and the others would indiscriminately humiliate me. They told me not to think about things that don't belong to me. I stole a glance at Wen Yuding. I raised an eyebrow slightly. Of course, you can. I can give you half an hour. An hour. If we look for a more upscale cafe, there definitely won't be enough time. So we can only find a random cafe nearby the school. Wen Yuding and Lu Wei were both very dissatisfied. But due to my current status, they couldn't do anything to me. They had to just find a cafe nearby. Fortunately, this cafe is small but clean. Even so, Lu, who was used to upscale places, and Wen Qingyu also felt a bit uncomfortable. I felt that the private room was too small. I sat across from the four of them, crossing my legs. The behavior was casual yet contained a hint of elegance. After all, it's the same thing. I tilted my chin towards Qingyu. Although Wen Qingyu was standing, he was completely suppressed by me. Although my attitude wasn't exactly pleasant, Yu was still obedient. He recounted the whole story of what had happened. The reason Mom wants to bring you back as an adopted son was because she was worried I would be upset. She was afraid I wouldn't be able to accept it. So I want to bring you back. And then slowly tell you the truth. Gradually restore our identities. I didn't expect things to turn out this way. When it came down to the end, Wen Qingyu still didn't forget to defend Wen Yushin's previous actions. Dad didn't mean to. He just didn't want you to be left out. He was afraid you would go down the wrong path. To be honest, Yu was quite good. Whether in his expression or words, he was full of sincerity. If it wasn't for being cheated so badly in the last life, I might actually be moved by him. His demeanor has always been so innocent. Looking at Lu Wei, Wen Yuding, and Muyao, the emotion in the eyes of the three of them, Muyao included, I raised an eyebrow and asked, speaking of which, I also have to thank you all. Upon hearing this, Wen Qingyu shook his head. I didn't mean it that way. What I mean is that all of this is closely related to me. If you want to blame someone, blame me. Don't blame Mom and Dad. They're just too worried about me. Of course, I also know that what Mom and Dad are doing is unfair to you. After all, you are their biological son. But they are also victims. They raised me as their own son for over 10 years. It's equivalent to them having loved me like you for over 10 years. This bond of over 10 years cannot just be severed at will. They can't let go of me, yet can't move past you either. So they sought to deceive with that lie. During Wen Qingyu's speech, Lu Wei could no longer hold back her tears, although she didn't think much of it at first. After Wen Qingyu said that, she seemed to truly become great. Wen Yuding and Wen Muyao were both moved. They completely forgot at first how much malice they had for a relative they had never met. A little hoodlum disappeared, without a trace under Wen Qingyu's cover. I looked at Chongyu. I looked at Bang. I felt like I couldn't help but forgive you all. Seeing Wen Qingyu's obvious sigh of relief, I changed my tone. Not to mention whether I have any blood relation to your parents. Let's talk about how, at the very first moment they discovered the child was switched, they didn't choose to understand my past life, but rather chose how to protect your feelings. Don't you find that absurd? When I was 7 years old, my adoptive mother has passed away. If it weren't for my intelligence and good grades, what would I be like now? However, I am unwilling to become the adopted son of the Wen family. You want to use special means to force me to submit. You now euphemistically say this is because you can't let go, forcing me to return to your home as your adopted son. It's like training a dog to slap countless times before giving one sweet date, and expect the other party to be deeply grateful. If this is your so-called way of not being able to let go of someone, then the one your parents can't let go of must be quite pitiful. I think about what happened in my previous life. My gaze grows increasingly intense. Then I watch Wen Qingyu stand up directly. And you are hypocritical enough. I really have nothing better to do. That's why I would give people like you an hour's time. After I finish speaking, I turn around and leave. Seeing this, a hint of confusion flashes in Wen Qingyu's eyes. He steps forward to grab my hand. Unexpectedly, I stop and turn around to look at them. There was a hint of warning in his gaze. Don't come looking for me again. Otherwise, I think I can talk to my mentor again. At that time, I won't forgive you so easily. I just threw out a heavy statement, leaving without looking back. While watching my figure fade away, Wen Qingyu couldn't hold it in anymore. Tears fell in an instant. Sister Tian, gently. Did I do something wrong? He turned to look at Lu Wei and the others. Wen Muyao looked bewildered. Lu Hui's eyes couldn't hide her disappointment. Wen Yuding glared coldly at the direction I was leaving. No, you did nothing wrong. It's his narrow-mindedness. He doesn't know better. What does it matter how excellent he is? No matter how powerful his mentor is. Didn't he say we suppressed his dignity? And broke his wings? Then I'll personally cut off his escape route. I want him to kneel his way back to the Wen family. After saying that, she quickly picked up the phone. Once the call connected, Wen Yuding's tone was as icy as winter. Bring me Lang Chuyan right away. No matter what method it takes, I must see her tonight. The person on the other end quickly agreed. After hanging up, Wen Yuding's eyes shimmered with a sinister light. She turned around to look at Lu Wei. Lu Hui's face was still filled with disappointment. Mom, you should let it go. Leave the rest of the matter to me. Wen Yuthing's voice seemed to come from an ice cellar. It is unsettling. It sends chills down one's spine. Yan Linyao hurriedly tugged at her hem. Elder sister, why must it be this way? Perhaps we can find another way to solve the problem. Yan Yu's brows furrowed. Hearing your tone, it seems you know that ungrateful thing. But it seems he doesn't care about you at all. Wen Muyao's expression was ugly. As for the box industry, I've said all I can. I have my eyes on the box. Be careful not to capsize in the gutter. Mind your own business. Wen Yuding pushed her away. She waved at Wen Qingyu and Lu Wei. Then she turned and left. Wen Muyao watched her back. She thought of the things that had happened before. Her brows were tightly furrowed. Just when she wanted to catch up, suddenly, Wen Qingyu's voice came from behind. Yao Yao, what did your sister just say to you? Wen Muyao turned her head to meet Wen Qingyu's clear gaze. The anger in her heart inexplicably dissipated. She could only stop in her tracks. At that moment, I had no idea that Wen Yuding was plotting against me. Even if I knew, I wouldn't take it to heart. I experienced too much in my past life. It's about time they experienced it themselves. Thinking about the expressions of Wen Yuding, Wen Qingyu, and the others just now, I was extremely happy. I took out my phone and called Lang Chuyan. Sister Chuyan, are you free? Want to grab a bite? Want to set a time? Let's go eat together soon. Lang Chuyan cheerfully responded on the other end of the line. Sure. I want to eat Haidilao. Just as she finished speaking, a van suddenly appeared next to her. Just as she was about to turn and flee, she saw the door of the van swing open violently. Several burly men rushed out. They instantly surrounded her. Lang Chuyan shouted in panic. Who are you? What do you want? Without saying a word, those burly men dragged Lang Chuyan into the van. Lang Chuyan struggled desperately. The phone in her hand also fell to the ground with a thud. The call is still ongoing. Her cries for help came through the phone. I shouted anxiously into the phone. Chuyan,